So, a while back, the TV presenter Jeremy Kyle was supposedly involved in an altercation in the Spanish resort island of Magaluf. Um, I like to think I'm mature enough not to gloat about the misfortune of those I don't like, but I couldn't help raising a little smile at this, because I honestly believe that people like Kyle deserve some karma. Now the story goes, and there's mixed reports. This was about a month ago. I'd intended to talk about it at the time, but other more important things came up, which I wanted to talk about. Anyway, the report goes that Kyle and his crew were lurching around the street in Magaluf trying to find potential clients for a new reality TV show he was making, or whether it was to do with the Jeremy Kyle show or not, I'm not sure. But apparently a Romanian doorman took exception to this and believed that Kyle and his team were making the place look bad. Although, in all fairness, Kyle and his team wouldn't need their help to do that. Magaluf has already got a pretty seedy reputation. But anyway, the bouncer took exception to this and apparently pepper sprayed Kyle. Well, I'm not going to laugh about it, but I can't help thinking this is karma. If you don't know who Jeremy Kyle is, if you're from outside the UK and you don't know who he is a thoroughly nasty individual. This is a man who's made millions out of a TV show that basically exploits troubled people, that stirs up their emotional turmoil for entertainment. It's a talk show, and it's become notorious in Britain for its confrontational style. Basically, Kyle will invite people onto the show with pretty mad storylines that would give Jerry Springer a run for its money. And in some ways it's worse than Jerry Springer, because there's a lot of allegations that Springer's shows are fake. There's definitely nothing fake about the Jeremy Kyle show. There's been a number of legal situations involved in certain episodes. But basically this man is... When the show first came about in 2005, I saw one or two bits of episodes and I just felt sickened. I felt sickened that this could be used as entertainment. I think there is a place for some sort of talk shows, but basically what Kyle does, whilst he boasts about how great a citizen he is, even though he's an ex-gambler, I believe has had several relationships, he's not exactly an upstanding husband, he would boast about how great he is and gloat about what a wonderful father he is and what a role model citizen. And he would always say, before the guests appear in the show, "Oh, we're not here to judge." But then he would give the background story and deliberately stir up the audience, and have very little time for the audience either. I think they're shallow fools. I think they're just very shallow people who like watching others' troubles in order to take their mind off their own incomplete lives. Or, it's something I've noticed about the studio audience. They all have this smug idea that they're great citizens themselves, but they're basically like hyenas, sitting there and looking at other people's emotional trauma. Now, some of the guests that come on are pretty unpleasant individuals. You get petty criminals, sometimes not so petty. Some of them are guilty of serious crimes. You get people like wife beaters, and you get love cheats and all this sort of people, and some of them are thoroughly unpleasant. But I've said in other videos about Kyle that I believe the right way that society should deal with this is have these people arrested and dealt with in a court of law. Now, it's ironic because Jeremy Kyle fans like to get all self-righteous and say, oh, these people are benefit scroungers and so on. What they don't realise is that Kyle and his team bribe them with money to appear on the show in the first place. So they bring them on the show to berate them for abusing the welfare system, and yet they're bribed to go on. Do you really think someone's going to go on voluntarily just to be abused by a hostile crowd if there wasn't something in it for them? Kyle and his team are very, very manipulative con artists. A few years ago there was an incident in one of his shows where a man was told that he would be reconciled with his ex-wife, only for Kyle to bring out her new lover and basically stir things up. So it ended up with the man headbutting his love rival. He was later arrested and charged with assault. Even though in some ways that was a human reaction. Now, I'm not condoning what he done, but if you're humiliated in that way in front of millions of people on national television, to have your love rival gloat at you, and have Kyle sitting there smugly knowing full well what would happen, I think it's disgusting. I think that's a form of emotional violence, actually. You know, people remember that incident from the actual physical violence, but actually it was a form of emotional violence. And I really felt sorry for the man who was humiliated. And this love triangle was being used by Kyle and his cronies to entertain very shallow people. And I just think that's disgusting. Bear in mind, these people are not actors, these are real lives we're talking about. To have their emotional turmoil turned into a form of entertainment, I just think it's almost like watching a soap opera, except instead of acting, it's real. And I think that's very disturbing. I think the thing I most have contempt for about Kyle is the fact that he loves himself so much. He stands up there on that stage talking about how wonderful he is and how he would have dealt with things in a different way and so on. And he encourages his studio audience to judge the guests. And like I say, some of them are thoroughly unpleasant individuals. Believe me, I've got no sympathy for wife beaters. Some of the guests are indeed scum. But I don't see what parading them around TV for entertainment is going to achieve. Those people need to be punished in a court of law. And I really do think we should have some laws against this form of entertainment, because it's sick. And sooner or later, there's going to be more serious incidents than that. In fact, there was another incident whereby the family of a girl who was threatened by her ex-boyfriend after appearing on the show wanted to sue the show for that. I don't know all the details, but it's a sort of byproduct that happens when you stir up dangerous, volatile or broken people. I mean, to pretend there would be no side effect from having your emotional turmoil plastered all over national television, and then have a smug scumbag like Jeremy Kyle hiding behind his security guards, berating you in front of the studio audience, in front of millions of TV viewers, I think it's sickening. By all means, you know, these people should be punished, or they need professional help. And some of them, incidentally, are not bad criminals. They're not thoroughly bad people. Some of them are just naive people who've made bad choices. In fact, some of them, I suspect, have serious mental health problems. Now, Kyle and his team will make excuses and say, oh, we thoroughly analyse each case and they know what they're getting into, and we think very carefully before they appear on the show. I think that's a lot of crap, because if you look at the way the Jeremy Kyle show is marketed, it is marketed as entertainment. So they want people who are going to be a powder keg. They want people who are going to explode, because it's good for ratings. Because the sort of shallow people who watch the show, and if you watch the show and you're getting offended by this, I would say, okay, well, prove to me otherwise. Prove to me that you... I mean, I've heard some people say to me, oh, I'm a psychology student and that's why I watch the show. But if that's the case, then I hope you would be open-minded enough to realise that this cannot be healthy for society, and this cannot be healthy for the guests. I mean, come on, who are you kidding? To have cameras thrust in people's face, televised, do you really think people are going to act normal in those circumstances? If they already have a temper problem, all it's going to do is exacerbate it. It's a bit like Big Brother, and I just think it's very, very sick. And those, I've had some idiots come to me on these videos and say, oh, we respect Kyle because he doesn't take shit from anyone, and they worship Kyle. Like Saint Jeremy Kyle can do no wrong. This isn't about me. This isn't about me trying to rival Kyle. It's just because I think some of us who still have an open mind need to speak out against this. Incidentally, about the whole free speech argument, some would say, oh, well, what can you say? It's his free speech. But that's just the point. It's not about free speech. This isn't Jeremy Kyle sort of talking on a radio show and saying he believes this about this. This is him actively, it's a physical action, bringing people on to his show to stir up their emotions, to exploit them, and to boost ratings. Now, the producers will turn around and say, oh, look at the number of success stories we've had, people being reconciled and so on. But of course they need that. Of course they need some success stories in order to stay on air. These are clever, manipulative people. in my opinion, they're absolutely... I am absolutely cynical about Kyle's intentions. And I think he's a thoroughly odious little man. And I have contempt for him, quite honestly. Because it isn't just his guests that he hurts. He sends out the wrong message to society. He promotes stereotypes about, for example, unemployed people, that all unemployed people are lazy parasites. Yet when he appears on the Sun newspaper, which is a little bit like the snake working with a snake, yeah, I hate the Sun as well. It's like, I just think it's so ironic that this guy, you know, it's true that a lot of my videos are opinionated. I share opinions. I'm perhaps judgmental in my videos, but the difference is I don't exploit people. I don't misuse the emotional turmoil of others in that way. And I really hope his show declines, and I hope it's eventually taken off air. I will genuinely celebrate that day, and I hope no other form of trashy TV replaces it. Because in recent years, standards in British television have gone down. We still have some world-class TV, but it sickens me that someone like Kyle can get so much support and he can make money out of what he is doing. He's made a lot of money out of his biography, out of his TV show, and I just think it's disgusting. So this incident in Magaluf was maybe a little bit of karma, maybe.